Longines FEI World Cup Jumping North American League. 14 qualifying events across 3 countries in North America. Canada, USA, Mexico, from July 2016 to April 2017. 14 riders qualify to a global final to take place in Omaha. Tune in.
Well, set to get underway with the Steelcraft Door Products Limited International Speed, and as we mentioned already, lots to be raised as well for Just World International with the jumping fence too, if they can clear that. A reminder, just over by the Thunder Bar, that the team are down there. You can put your name up there to donate towards every time the riders clear that jump, or that'll take up the donation right the way through. So we're set to get underway and ready to welcome the Langley Thunder and our fabulous vocalist as well to start things off. Well, to get things underway, we're delighted to welcome Karen Lee Bassett, 5 times BC and current star vocalist, to start us off with the anthem.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true North, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for
but probably 5.
Well, fantastic.
To the in and out, another 1.
I think 1, 2. Sorry.
As soon as that was done, we were on. They told us. So they can hear it.
2 seconds, they need to be inside of that. Otherwise, they pick up time faults. And if you're new to show jumping, well, the rule's very, very easy. If they have a fence down, well, that is 4 faults. And each fence down, of course, counts for 4 of those. They're looking to get round with a 0 score inside that time of 82
Welcoming everyone now to the Steelcraft Doors Speed class here at Thunderbird Show Park. A $34,000 international class set at 1.45 m. And it's a big night for us here at Thunderbird. We're going to see 59 entries. Kate Pedersen joined by Holly Grayton. And Holly, a beautiful night for show jumping here and a big class full of talented horses and riders. What do we have to expect from this course?
It's been a beautiful day. We've had some pretty hot weather here. We have a nice course set here by our course designer, Alan Wade. Speed track, so there's some inside options and a couple of small choices in the stride options in these lines. We have a nice inviting number 1 jump, roll back 2 to 3 and what walks of 4 strides. We're going to see our first rider here and see what decisions he makes on course.
So it's Mateus Eckroth and De Carlos coming up first on course. It's an 8-year-old gelding, and an interesting connection, I was talking to his wife earlier, is that his horse is the his sire is Verdi, who we saw at the Rio Olympics, which is neat. It may very well be the youngest horse in the class at 8 years old.
That's right. We've had a couple of 8-year-olds show in this division this week, including this one. And Verity was a stallion who's produced quite a few great young horses, and this may be one of the first ones to be jumping in the FEI division. He's made a nice roll back there to number 2. Nice forward 4 strides. With 59 entries today, it'll be interesting to see how many clear rounds we had. We really didn't have that many with such a large class the other day. After walking this course, I would say it's maybe not as big as it was the other day as you'd expect on a speed day, but definitely there's still some questions out there. You can see Mateus took that inside option there, just inside number 2 back to 6AB. This line coming up here will be interesting. To me, it walks right on 4.5 strides. So he's going to opt to do the 5. I did hear a couple people talking about a 4 stride, so we'll see if that comes up later in the day. Oh, it's nice to see a clear round come out on our first trip out. That's a lot different than the other night. It may not be our fastest round we see, but definitely clear and within the time.
Absolutely, and you mentioned a big class and lots to see, and a bit of a change for the riders later in the classes we'll notice is that the sun is going to start to set and we're going to see some shadows pop up.
Absolutely.
And just at looking at this, I think number 7, that Oxer, might become a bit of a tough one to see if the shadows do shift over there, and especially over in sort of our middle section through 8 and 9AB, we're going to see some shadows because there's a lot of stuff going on in the ring in that area.
Absolutely, and that line with its questionable distance and going away from the gate could prove to be a little bit tricky for the greener horses.
Second entry on course here, it's Chocna and Enrique Gonzalez.
Enrique's really been a mainstay on the Mexican team. He made quite a tight roll back there, maybe slower than Mateus with how tight he went. And he's going to make quite a slice on this. And then easily inside number 2. And again, he's quite tight back there to that vertical. He may 2, 4. Oh, he made that a bending 5-stride line.
Wiggle him to fit it in.
That's right. We should also count here from the plank to the last jump. Walked a little bit direct 9. I would imagine most people will do that. Was that an 8?
That was an 8.
That was an 8. All right.
Knows he has the stride on this horse to do a nice direct 8.
That's right. So he was 66 seconds of our 82-second time allowed. So time's really not going to be a factor tonight. And again, we had just one down. So we'll see. We should have more clear rounds than we did the other night. That could get pretty fast.
With 59, I'd say you'd have to be clean and fairly fast to be in the money here tonight.
Absolutely.
So the next entry on course here, piloted by Cara Anthony, it's a Mai Adela Demiloon.
That's a mouthful.
That is a long name.
This has been, I think she's had this horse about a year now, and she's been getting to know it and getting up into these FEI divisions. But Kara's had many horses in the FEI. She's not a stranger to this ring, just a new ride for her.
So a 10-year-old gray mare in the ring here with Cara Anthony.
She's taking a nice slice on number 1 here, so she can get a nice tight roll back. Number 2. Maybe a little deeper than she wanted to be and had to push out there in the 4 strides. She's going to have to make up some time now. You can see she's already put a slice on 4AB and had B down. When you're getting to know these new horses, though, you have to test them a little bit. You have to find where the buttons are. She doesn't look to be backing off. Already turning in the air there over number 7.
So opting to do the 5 there.
Yeah, you know, I think the 4 is going to be a reach unless you catch a big Noel Asmar jump there and keep on kicking. The 8 looks easy again. So just the 1 down for her. A little bit slower than the rest we've seen, but not by much, and still well under our 82-second time allowed.
So 3 so far in this class, 1 clear, but we're definitely anticipating a few more up there in the no-fault zone. And next on course, a young rider here, 22 years old, representing Canada. It's Ben Asselin and Plume de la Roque. And we'll see Ben on Sunday in the World Cup qualifier with his stallion Veyron, but 2 horses in tonight's class, 2 different horses. And I talked to Ben earlier in the week, and he said it's been nice to be here. He's bringing some young horses along, and even though he is from Calgary, it does feel like home to be here in Langley.
He does. He comes here a lot, and developing young horses has been part of his family's go-to. His father always developed young horses, and Ben's following that tradition for sure. He's had this horse now since the spring of last year, and she's 13 years old, so she's got some miles under her belt, and they really developed a partnership in the last 2 years. And you can see she's obviously experienced. He's galloping her a little bit more than we've seen so far in the first 4 horses.
Squared up that turn a little bit more to 5 than we've seen some of the others.
Yeah. You know, Ben's young, but he's been around the sport a long time to know where you should take your chances and where you shouldn't. It's a lovely mare. Oh, that'll be fast.
65, 67, 79, 65, 70 is the time there, and clear, so he'll move up to the top of the leaderboard. But if we look at the time difference there between first and second, he shaved off a lot of time.
He did. He'll I don't think he's unbeatable at that speed, but he was quick for sure.
Okay, so as we wait for our fifth horse to get underway here, I spoke with Alan Wade about the course that he said, and he said with the dry weather and jumping on grass here in a big class Sunday, he wanted to set a track with lots of options. It's wide open, people can choose, and speaking of choosing, Jennifer Gates in the ring next with Caddy R, and a tough rail there at that first oxer.
It's always a shame to have the first jump down. Maybe worse to have the last jump, but it sort of sets the tone for the course. Absolutely. She gets to make a decision early here as if she's just gonna, oh yeah, circle here. She struggled a little bit with this horse the other night, I have to say. She did a circle before the double there, so she's going to take this as a schooling round, it looks like.
Yeah, and going back to what we were talking about earlier with the setup of this course, it's nice and wide open, and in that regard, you can choose your own track. Riders won't be riding over the same track more than once, and they get to choose, and we've seen there really isn't a choice from 5 into 6AB where Jennifer's coming right now. Everyone's going to go inside, maybe as a schooling round. No, she opted to go inside as well.
She did, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not much of an inside turn, more of the inside track there.
That's right.
Getting to 6AB.
I think Alan will be minding his footing a lot It's like you say, it's been a dry week and the field looks a little beat up, but I have to say I think it's still jumping great, and he's still able to avoid those spots so that everyone's jumping on good footing. It's always hard in a class with 59 or more entries to the takeoff and landing of these jumps. There's no doubt about it. It's going to get torn up. They've done a great job here at Thunderbird Show Park keeping the footing. They were watering it all afternoon. We had a nice break in the action so that they could take proper care of it. And unfortunately, that's a second run out for her, so she won't get to jump the last jump. Still, though, a new ride for her. I think they'll just keep developing their partnership.
Absolutely, just 20 years old, and she'll be coming up on Sunday on her horse Pumped Up Kicks, so we'll get a chance to see her with that one. But a very nice, humble young girl who is absolutely well-spoken and really dedicated to the sport. It's nice to see her come up through the young riders ranks and
absolutely
and step up to some of these bigger classes.
Absolutely.
All right, our sixth entry on course now. It's Lotta and Carrie Roofer.
Carrie's been riding with Rich Fellers for the last couple of years, so I would imagine that they have a speedy track in mind for her, especially on this horse, which she's had for a while.
So very efficient from 1 to 2.
Yeah. It's a little bit hard, that 1 to 2. It's a deceiving, I think, if you don't get straight enough to number 2, that little bit forward 4 gets bending, and then you get chasing a little bit. She's quite straight here, back to number 5. She'll have to pick up the pace here on these ends, these turns, if she wants to get anywhere near Ben's time.
But it doesn't look like she's doing it there. Setting up the 5.
Oh, and it looks like she had that A down. That's a little bit behind a tree for us, but I'm pretty sure I saw that one come down. Oh, and the front rail of that ox are out of that turn. That's a shame. Oh, that's a shame for her.
So she'll finish up with 8 jumping faults in a time of 70-10 in this one. So in a class of 59, 8 faults won't do it today.
I don't think so. Well, we'll see her again later on her beautiful Grey Stallion Clapton. You know, with we've had 4 ranking, or we will have 4 ranking classes this week, and so a lot of these riders have 3 horses in this division, and they won't have used them all every day. So she'll be probably protecting her horses for Sunday, and then using her other ones for valuable ranking points.
Absolutely, and I spoke to some of the riders, and they kind of gauged the way they prepped for this weekend on how Wednesday's class went, and Wednesday's class was a tough class, and so those who felt like they needed a bit of a tune-up or a confidence booster have opted to enter their World Cup qualifying horse tonight. So our next entry on course, Lisa Carlson aboard Perrette. It's a 10-year-old bay mare.
Yeah, you know, Lisa got this horse as a, oh, that's quite wide back to number 2. Lisa got this horse as a 7-year-old. She'd been having babies up until that point, and so even though she's 10, and that should be prime age, she's actually quite green at this level. She's only been jumping with Lisa for 3 years, and she obviously has quite a bit of scope and ability, which has encouraged her to move up quick, but she's still green, a green 10-year-old. As you can see, Lisa's also riding with a wrap on her leg. She's battling a groin injury, and we haven't seen her riding even her own young horses lately. She's been protecting that and trying to make that better by only riding her top mounts. She's jumping beautifully, though.
And we've seen only 5s there. We haven't seen anyone going for the 4 because you've got to set yourself up.
You do.
for that in and out.
I think you might see a 4 if it was a single jump, but like you say, with the in and out there,
It's a big oxer to get across on the backside.
that's right. And there we saw the one more step to the last jump.
So a clear round, but the time of 79.14. So with that, Lisa Carlson and Perrette slide into our third spot. We've seen just 7 of 59 so far this evening.
And as a reference there, that would be 14 seconds off our top pace of our 82. Still within our time allowed easily, but still quite a distance from our leading Ben Aslan with Plume de la Roque.
So our next entry on course, representing Canada, Shauna Cook and McIntosh, a 13-year-old chestnut gelding.
Yes, we've seen McIntosh in years past with a different rider from Calgary, who I believe has been working for Shauna this year and gave Shauna the ride on this horse. He's jumped a lot of big tracks with the amateur girl, and now we'll see Shauna get a shot at it with him.
Well, the way she jumped one, it looks like she's going for the money.
She's ready. It's a big moving horse, lots of scope for sure. It's unfortunate to have that early rail there at 4A. And you can see there he's just a little inconsistent with his leads, which is not helping him leave the jumps up, that's for sure. You know, a little bit like she did the other night, it seems to get better the more she gets into the course. He gets on more of a rhythm. He's staying on his leads better now. So that'll just come together in their partnership. It's only her first season on him. And Shauna doesn't show heavily, you know, so she won't have been practicing at the shows all summer.
Well, clean the rest of the way. She ends up with 8 jumping faults, a time of 71.28, and she'll slide into that 7th spot so far in our class. Okay, so we've seen 8 so far. Our 9th horse coming into the ring. It's Andrew Ramsey and Crockadoodle, a 9-year-old bay mare.
I watched this horse school the other day. I have to say it's a strong horse for sure. It's a blood horse for sure, and he sure rode it well on Wednesday night.
So is this the one then that you would predict we'll see someone try to shave that 65-70 that leads the way right now with Ben Aslan?
I think it's a quick horse. I think he'd have a good shot at it. It did win for him the other night, so I think it'll depend on what his plan is for Sunday, which horse he wants to use. Sometimes you don't like to see people go so fast when they're setting up for the Grand Prix. Andrew Ramsey's been riding with the legendary George Morris, who made an appearance this week. Oh yeah, he's tight back to number 2.
Very efficient number 2, absolutely.
God, this horse gives a great jump, huh? Oh yeah, he's definitely given it a shot.
All right, we've seen a lot of people angling up 5. Does just that.
That's right. And he'll be tight back here to 6. Gotta get his attention there. Oh.
Just cleared the standard on the right side of that jump. But no problem.
No problem.
It's about rideability, not the beauty of it.
Barely neatly put away that 5-stride line. It wants to get strong there, but so far it's letting him make choices.
Then we see the 8 there.
Very nicely ridden.
And he shaved the time indeed, 63.36 a clear jumping round, and that'll bump Ben Asselin off the top of our leaderboard and take over top spot for Andrew Ramsey and Crockadoodle.
This next rider is one of my favorite, Shelley Fellers, wife of Rich Fellers, and Revenge. And she's had this horse for a really long time. He brought her up through the Grand Prix. She brought him up through the Grand Prix. She's been out for a while with a broken foot, and then earlier before that, I think a broken collarbone, if not collarbone and shoulder. So she's been out a lot this year. And speaking with her the other day, she was pretty excited to have this horse back. She had to watch her son ride it at Spruce Meadows, which I think was pretty hard for her.
It's tough to step back when you're used to always being in the ring.
Especially on your favorite horse. Big step, that horse. She was quiet over 2 and just got down that 4 easy.
Oh, that unlucky rail there at 4A. She's motoring.
She is, but that's a wide track.
So B of the combination coming down.
You know, I think sometimes that horse has such a big step that she'll do something like that where she makes a bend in the line so that she doesn't have to slow down, but she can just keep the motor going.
So coming down the home stretch, carrying 8 faults right now. Finishing up with 8 faults in a time of 70.89, so they'll move into our current 8th spot. And with that, we have 49 riders left to go in this class.
Jill Blunt here also riding with the Fellers group of people, so she'll have a fast track in mind.
And this horse, Udam, a gray 15-year-old gelding.
By Gidam, she's had this horse for quite a while. It's a bit of an odd horse. It has a little bit its own way of going, a little bit funny technique, maybe hard to take a good picture of, but it sure knows where its legs are. Jill and this horse have been together for a long time, so the partnership here is obviously developed over the years. And she'll know just where she can push it and just where she can't, I think.
Well, I'd say your description is quite on point in terms of its jumping style, but it's leaving the jumps up.
So far, yep. She's a competitive person by nature also. She won't take her foot off the pedal, that's for sure.
Just a little rub at the end of 6AB, but makes it out. Coming down to the last fence, clear so far and fast. Little rub, but it stays up.
That's right.
65-35, so fast, but not fast enough for Jill Blunt and Udam. They're sitting in second spot right now. So as we expected, right now 5 clears so far after 11. So we are going to see a quick track, and it's going to come down to the ones with no faults filling
That's
out
right.
our top results.
And as we go here, it's just going to get faster and faster, I think.
A lot of riders here with 2 entries, so they've had a chance to see the track, ride the track.
That's right. We have Jen Sarek here with a new horse for her called Wicked. She had a little trouble with the shadows the other night, came back yesterday, jumped our smaller FEI class, Had no trouble at all, and we don't see those big shadows yet this evening, so best of luck to Jen.
And Wicked is an 8-year-old bay gelding owned by the Wicked Horse Group.
Jen bought this horse during the WEF circuit this past winter, and so they've been getting to know each other through the Spruce Meadows summer circuit, and now here. I would say these are one of the bigger tracks. And a little trouble again.
Some shadows starting to fall in front of that 4AB combination. Also,
that could be
some of the crowd.
And you see that horse wears a shadow roll, so they're obviously trying to block his view of some things. And she's going to opt to take number 1 again and call it a day. Oh, that's too bad for Jen.
So Jen Sarek opting to retire here with her gelding Wicked in tonight's class. Well, our second rider from Mexico tonight, Enrique Gonzalez in Zapzarap.
Zapzarap, great name, great name.
In Zapzarap, an 8-year-old gelding. And I did have quite an adventure in the Mexico aisle of the FEI barn today.
Did
learning
you?
Lots about the horses, talking to the grooms. They actually have a kitchen out back that they've set up so that they can have all of their favorite Mexican delicacy while they're working long days at the horse show. So they've certainly made Thunderbird feel like home.
Mm-hmm. Enrique, I think he started coming here maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and I don't think he's missed a show since he started. You know, he's a big fan of Thunderbird Show Park. He's always bringing top horses up here, and some customers too. He runs a good business. We, of course, love having him up here. Oh, and he's gone around number 2, the first one to go around.
And maybe that's something he saw. We saw him earlier in the class going second on his first horse. So maybe there was something he saw and felt that with this one, it was a good option to go around and set up a more square turn to 6AB.
Absolutely. It's a shame to have the A of that double there down. Just barely touched it. And again, I'd say he's quite wide back to this oxer here.
So his second entry finishing up with 4 faults in a time of 79.54 for Zapzarap and Enrique Gonzalez.
It'll be interesting to see which horse he decides to take on Sunday. My guess would be this one, since he took a more conservative track, saving it a little bit.
Absolutely, and you talked about a tough track on Wednesday night and some of the riders having a little bit of trouble and having to manage the shadows and some of the external factors. What did you take from that as the most difficult part, and perhaps for some of these riders that are bringing their World Cup qualifying horse in, what do you think they're looking at accomplishing in something like this?
Yeah, you know, I think Wednesday's track, I think it was a lot of the track was maybe one hole bigger, but there was a lot of questions on course, and we saw rails come down all the way around. So like you said earlier, I think some of these riders are just giving their horses a little confidence boost, a little easier class, maybe not going to run the legs off them, but to get them feeling really confident in this ring for Sunday.
And speaking of confidence, the next gentleman we have coming in today, Niall Nassar, and he has had unbelievable success here at Thunderbird. Lordan, his horse that we're expecting to see him ride on Sunday, had a little bit of trouble Wednesday night, and so today is a confidence booster for him. So we'll see whether he opts for the conservative. He likes to be in the money here at Thunderbird.
He sure does. He won twice last week with this horse, and he actually commented to me that we were a little casual about his swim through the Oxer on Wednesday night, but it's hard to not feel confident that the two of them have built such a relationship that they'll come back just fine.
So an unlucky rail at 4A there in the combination. Opts to go inside there.
This horse has a tendency to be a little bit slow around the turns, and so when there's an inside option, NAL often takes it. You also sometimes see NAL do an ad in a line where you won't see any other horses ad, because it's a little bit short-strided horse, and but I think he'll be, just like we were talking, just building the confidence of the horse, getting him to jump around once before Sunday.
And optically, you've got a very tall guy on. Most of his horses are quite small, and I asked him, is that something that you're looking for? And he laughed and said, no, it's just ended up that way, but he likes the ones he has for their rideability, and as you said, opting to add a stride, his ability to adjust with some of these smaller horses has been something he's looked for. So finishing up today with 4 faults, a time of 74.72, but again, a confidence boosting, a nice positive round for Lordan, and we'll see them back here for our World Cup qualifier on Sunday.
That's right. This next rider is one of my favorites to watch. Lauren Crooks rides Dora the Explorer, and it's deceiving how short Lauren really is. She might kick me later for commenting on that, but she's a short rider for sure, and she rides all different sizes of horses, but she sure has a strong position and is a strong rider despite her small size.
And here she is on Dora the Explorer, an 8-year-old mare.
Lauren's quite a competitor, you know, and it's a family business where she comes from. I believe she works with her aunt, and both of her parents both rode competitively in the hunters and the jumper circuit. And also Lauren and her brother operate a business together in Washington. So it's serious business for her, and she is quite the competitor. She'll be disappointed, I think, to have that rail down. But those are the chances you take in these speed classes.
So carrying 4 faults now as she comes around the corner to 10, 11, 12, the home stretch.
And that's a shame there. It looked like they just had a little argument down that line. Lauren wanted to wait a little more than the mare was agreeing to.
So finishing the day here with 12 jumping faults, a fast time, 66.73. So she kept the pace, but unfortunately that 12 faults will keep her out of the ribbons today.
I would guess that for 4 faults, no matter how fast you are, that's not going to get you a ribbon. I agree.
Well, our next entry on course, Eric.
Great name.
Who
again.
Came up with that one?
I don't know. You know, Eric Neve is a world champion. He has many Grand Prix wins to his name. He's been around a long time, and he's recently moved in the last couple of years to California. Trains Carl Cook almost exclusively, I think. And they're developing quite a string of horses. Sometimes you'll see Carl on this horse, and sometimes you see Eric.
And I spent some time in the barn with his groom today, and learned he's extremely meticulous about everything he does, whether it's polishing his boots, picking his bits, and organizing everything at the barn, but that applies, and he's precise in the ring. He does everything with the calculated precision.
Absolutely. The details make a champion, I think. I think we've heard that said many times, and it's not just in the riding, but in the preparation. And this horse, you can see, he's already faster than anything we've seen yet. It'll be interesting to see his finishing time. He's quite a bit faster. Oh, and he has A and B. Shame. He'll have been trying to make a good shot, and you see there he knew right away and made a nice wide turn back to that oxer.
Now the rest becomes a confidence boost once you know in a class of 59 where we are predicting clean only in our top 10.
That's right. It's a hard horse to simmer down after he's gone that fast. You see it took him a minute there.
So even with slowing down there, he finishes with a time of 66.09, 8 jumping faults. So you've got to think he had the top spot with that ride had he not had those rails.
That's right.
So our next entry on course, Katie Harris representing the USA and Lafino.
I think this is a new-ish ride for Katie this year. She's been riding with Ray Texel, and this horse has a little bit more of a hunterish way of going, I would say. He definitely has a lower head carriage than you see the rest of the horses go with. But man, can it jump.
So Katie Harris and Lafino, an 8-year-old bay stallion.
You see in his way of going there, he could be starting the Hunter Derby.
I'll take him.
But great jump, huh? Great jump.
No problem with that 4.
No, he'll have a huge step. He's quite a big horse himself, and he has quite a big step also.
So it doesn't look like she's galloping too fast, but she's covering the ground.
Yep.
And a nice angle to 5, but
yeah, unfortunately a little farther away than I think she'd hoped, and had the front rail of that. And again, now 6B. And 7. So I would imagine that she'll be slowing it down now and schooling the rest of the course.
so coming down to our final oxer here with 12 jumping faults. And that'll do it. She'll finish with 12 jumping in a time of 73.10 today. So that's it for Katie Harris and Lafino. And coming into the ring next, the leader right now of the FEI World Cup standings, or one of our top riders coming in for Sunday, pardon me, Carl Cook aboard Caillou, a 9-year-old gray gelding.
That's right, and like we said earlier, when Eric Neve was in the ring, Carl's been riding with Eric Neve for the last few years, developing a string of horses for him and Carl both to ride in the Grand Prix. Carl did his Nations Cup debut earlier this year here at Thunderbird, and him and Eric have been working towards that goal for a while. Nice effort there at number 1. He's quite tight there, but not Eric and Carl have quite a string to pull from for Sunday, and I'm not sure which horse he'll be hoping to ride on Sunday, but he definitely has this horse and Tembla that would be good contenders.
I have confirmed that Tembla will be the horse.
Oh, good.
Yes.
And we'll see him later tonight, but not on Tembla. On another mount.
So this horse for him showing a lot of potential to be one of his future superstars, and how nice is it to be able to pick from such a solid string of horses.
Absolutely.
When you've got so many great classes in one horse show like this.
Absolutely.
And he'll be clear today, 71.33, so not fast enough to take over Andrew Ramsey, who still holds top spot, but Carl Cook and Caillou slide nicely into our fourth place in a time of 71.33. So right now, Andrew Ramsey with Crockadoodle leads the way, 63.36. So set the pace, fairly tough to beat, but still again, a big class here. Only on the 19th horse of 59, so no doubt he's relaxed back at the barn. Not too worried just yet about someone catching him.
That's right. We see Uma O'Neill next on Sotelo. Uma also riding with Ray Texel, and she went to Young Riders last year. Not on this horse, but she's been developing herself into the Grand Prix ranks. And this is a newer ride for her. It's always nice to see young talent coming up with these. This is a great horse for her. Lots of scope, lots of adjustability.
Beautiful 9-year-old stallion. The height certainly not a problem here, our meter 45 course.
That's right.
Just the first jump a little bit lower than the rest. Everything else set right to that true meter 45.
That's right. And she just missed that. Our vertical is our tallest vertical on course. And the oxers there at 4A and 5 are our widest oxers on course at a meter 60.
And that 4A has been a trouble spot so far in this class.
It has. You know, it's interesting how the course designers can use the material so differently to cause more tricks, more questions out on course than necessarily the distances between the jumps. There you see 4A is quite solid with an airy B.
So Uma O'Neill and Sotelo finishing our day here with 4 faults in a time of 72.88. They'll slide into 9th place. And now we've seen 19 of 59 in tonight's Steelcraft Doors Speed class.
Antonio Maurer and Sotelo are our next horse rider combination in the ring. We'll see Antonio lots this week. He rides a lot of horses. They're always a certain type of horse, big, rangy, scopy horses.
So Cartier, an 11-year-old Bay Gelding, and Antonio Maurer.
Not really your typical speed horse here. Big, rangy, slower moving gallop. But not to say he can't get in the ribbons if he can tighten up these turns. Doesn't waste a lot of time in the air, this horse.
So we'll have to see if Marcelo, his groom, gave him enough life chats and singing to him. He says that calms him down. He's very quiet in the barn, and he will do absolutely anything for food.
For food?
For food. But 6AB, a problem there.
That's right. Like I said, with these bigger moving, slower moving horses, you have to tighten up those turns quite a bit. And he was quite tight, turned back to 6A. And then he has 9A down there as well.
So right now with 8 faults as he comes into our home stretch. And we're blocked by a tree here.
We are blocked by a tree, but I would guess he didn't see what he liked, and he's going to circle around and do it again.
And we're slowly seeing some of these shadows creep in that we talked about maybe being an issue for some of the riders later in the course.
Absolutely.
Just changes what the horse is looking at and where you've got to get their eye as you come through some of these turns, especially into some of these combinations. As you said, some of those wider oxers, in the in and outs.
Absolutely. It's also going to wreak havoc a little bit on the riders' eyes when they're turning into the sun themselves and how they see things.
So Antonio Maurer and Cartier finishing the day in a time of 89.67 with 14 penalties.
That'll be a bit too many to get in the ribbons today.
I would think so. 14 might be an understatement as a bit too many. But our next rider on course to challenge Francisco Pascal and Naranjo. And this is a 9-year-old bay gelding, our 21st entry in this class of 59.
Francisco was part of the winning Nations Cup team here at Thunderbird Show Park in May. Him and his brother, and it was quite a competition here in May with their first Nations Cup at Thunderbird Show Park.
So a very efficient turn there from 1 to 2, probably the most we've seen so far.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, 4B coming down. Sometimes that happens when you turn on the pressure. Not sure there. He was looking back. Maybe he rubbed that and we didn't decision how to go forward. He almost galloped down there like he
Looked
thought
like
about
he was
4.
going for the 4, and then no room for the front end there with the 5. So 8 faults as he gallops down to this final oxer, our Steelcraft doors final oxer, and he'll finish the day with 8 jumping faults in a time of 67.91 for Francisco Pascal and Naranjo. So we've seen quite a few horses so far, 21 of our 59. What do you think it's going to come down to? Are we going to wager here at this point?
It's going to come right down to the end, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's going to get faster and faster as we go. And Jack Hardentel, our next rider on Lucifer, is going to be no exception. This is a horse he took to World Cup finals. And a little play there before we get to number 1. But he knows this horse well, and he won't be afraid to go fast on it.
Lucifer, a 10-year-old bay gelding.
Great jumper, this horse. And that's quite tight back to number 2. Hardin's quite a competitor himself, so when matched with a horse like this, can never count him out.
A dynamic duo.
That's right. He's making quick work of this track, for sure. And if he can leave all the jumps up, we may see him up near the top.
Good so far.
One more to go.
Coming down to the final oxer. Very direct ride there to that oxer.
Oh, that's going to rival Andrew Ramsey's time.
Oh, wow. 63.38, just shy of the lead. Andrew Ramsey holding on to that 63.36.
Just 0.02 seconds split them up. Well, one might think that's as fast as you can go, but as we get into this course, we might see faster.
And our next rider here, it's Joel Froze aboard Onyx, an 11-year-old gelding.
Joel's had Onyx actually for a really long time. As a young horse, it was developed for her by Kyle King, who actually rode his father, Laramie. And Kyle brought him up, jogged him a few times in these FEI classes, and now Joel gets the ride back. Speaking of short riders, Joelle's quite short herself. Have you met her?
I have not met Joelle.
She's not tall. She is not tall. But again, a very strong, effective rider for her size.
Power to the shorties.
That's right. Onyx is not a small horse, so it's a lot for her to manage, but she does the job well.
So staying out quite a bit wider than we've seen to 2.
And again to 4A. She'll fall into that category of someone who's trying to have a nice round out here today, not necessarily be up in the ribbons.
And it's certainly a track that allows you to have that confidence booster if that's the way you choose to go, or you can turn on the jets as we saw.
That's right. And there, she just had number 5 down.
And on our 23rd horse here, we have not seen anyone go for that 4.
That's true.
Because of that in and out.
I think you're right there.
Oh, tough rail there. At 11. So she'll finish up with... Well, this one... A funny story behind the name. I know many people have seen the movie 50 Shades of Grey. Christian Grey and Tiffany Sullivan, and she says his personality is 50 Shades of Grey. He's got a little bit of everything going on in terms of how he acts at the barn and how he is to ride.
He's a large horse, you know, and if there was a horse to do that 4-stride line into the double at the end of the course there, this could be it.
So it's got to have a big step, it's got to cover the ground, but at the same time, as you said, some of the widest oxers on the course, you've got to be able to clear that back rail. So you've got to think about a lot of things in that one particular part of the course.
That's right.
To set yourself up nicely. Oh, and again, that first rail coming down.
You know, it's a shame that rail has come down as much as it has. It looks to be an inviting oxer with a little ramp to it, but the shadows are starting to set on the front side of it. Just a little lead organizing there around that turn.
Scopy enough to get over that.
Big effort, yeah. Oh. Unfortunately, a little argument there on the turning.
So with a track like this, we're going to see that rideability coming in as a big factor when you're trying to... It looks simple. It's a big, wide track, but when you're trying to make some of those decisions like an inside turn or angling up some of the jumps and then having to set yourself up nice and square for these combinations, that rideability plays a big part.
Absolutely,
in being able to get over these jumps and have that no faults that we've clearly seen we need with 7 cleans so far.
That's right. And these right turns are just getting a little bit difficult for her and Christian today. That back rail coming down at 9B. And of course, we're working on time faults now with the circle.
Christian Grey finishing the day with 17 faults in a time of 101.93. So she'll go back to the drawing board after this one. Probably watch it on tape and see where she can make the proper adjustments.
That's right.
So our next entry on course here, a Canadian in the ring. It's Brenda Riddell and Wilson, a 13-year-old Grey Gelding.
That's right. Brenda hails from Calgary, my hometown, and she's had this horse a while, and they know each other quite well. I think Brenda's looking to just have a nice trip here. Not too fast, just right in the middle. It's a great jumper, this little horse.
That second effort over that number 5 Oxer. It really gave her everything on that one. And good so far. Brenda Riddell and Wilson coming down the home stretch here with no jumping faults. She looks like she's starting to go for it.
Yeah, she's unfortunately still slower than our...
So what started as a confidence booster finished certainly as a confidence booster.
Absolutely.
And she turned on the jets there coming on the home stretch once she knew she was in the clear off some of the tougher parts that we've seen here in that 8-9AB section.
That's right.
Well, our next entry hails from the United States. It's Tina Yates and Juanita.
Tina's developed such a nice string of horses, and often the most beautiful horses on the ground, I have to say.
Well, that was no problem.
Great jumping horses she has. Absolutely. She's a lovely rider too. She sits very still and the horses jump very well for her.
Beautiful job executing that angle to set up this turn to 6AB. And it's scopy, leaving lots of room
Absolutely.
between itself and the jumps.
This horse definitely came to play today. It's, like you say, quite scopy, giving the jumps lots of room. And she's just been on a nice slick rhythm the whole way around. We'll hope for her that she can leave everything up on the last 2 jumps here.
She's quick, but I don't think she's going to be quick enough here. Beautiful way to finish though, 66.43 and 0 faults, so she'll bump Brenda Riddell out of that 5th place spot and sit nicely there, but quite a substantial difference we can see here between our 5th and 6th place riders. Nearly 5 seconds.
Yep, you're gonna have to be 66 seconds or...
And I said, how much coaching do you have to do? What's involved? And he said she is an absolute student of the game, and she recently last summer spent her first full summer in Europe, and he said you can tell that visually she's just taking things and just learning, and from watching some of the European riders, she's just
find points that happen on Sunday also. I would imagine they're setting...
He's fluent in Spanish. I learned that today.
Is that right?
And they said it's quite good.
Yeah?
All of the grooms, yes. And he may tell you he's excellent at singing, but the grooms beg to differ. They give him the Spanish points, but they say that he's not a great singer at all.
Not a great singer.
Yeah.
Well, you can't be good at everything, and he's quite a developed rider. He rides a couple of horses for us today here.
B of that 4AB is supposed to be quite a problem here today. He's quick up to this point.
He is.
But unfortunately that 4 faults we're going to see is not in the ribbons already.
That's right, yeah.
After less than half the class.
Have to be clear today, and it's going to turn out you're going to have to be clear and fast. And again, he just had the A there of 9AB.
So 8 faults as he turns the corner to our home stretch. Heading towards that Steelcraft final Oxer. So a finishing time of 68.70. He'll do that with 12 faults. So out of the ribbons today for Nikolai Heiners. But as you said, we will see him with another mount later in today's class. Well, we saw him come in and have a really nice effort on his mount for Sunday's World Cup qualifier, Lordan. A 4-fault effort for him earlier today. And his next horse, it's NAL, Nassar, and Asita, a 9-year-old bay mare.
He's been developing this horse for a couple of years, since she was 6 or 7. NAL often likes to bring his horses along himself, so he knows them very well when they get to the top level. Oh, unfortunately a little slip there and got a little bit stuck. But she's a scopy, rangy horse with lots of step to get out of that 4-stride line.
And that's where he said with some of these little ones, he likes that rideability, the ability to adjust and move up there to make that 4 work after a tough one jumping in. And we see number 5 come down yet again.
I think those shadows are also going to start to play a role there. That number 5 is a big shadow on the backside, and it's creeping over top of the Liverpool that's under that bear jump. It's a little bit hard to see that Liverpool. They've put fake grass on the edge of it, so some of those horses don't actually see the Liverpool till they're up in the air. And then a little peek down is all they need to have that down. And he's had that one too, so coming home with 12 faults. Big kick to the last jump. I imagine
Put an extra effort over that Steelcraft Doors Oxer. Finishing up today with 12 faults, a time of 71.07 for NAL, Nassar, and Asita. All right, so second time today for USA's Katie Harris, this time with Garkis van Hetlandhoff, a 10-year-old bay gelding, and we saw her go earlier in this class. It seems like forever ago, 17th, finishing with 12 faults on her stallion. So now she knows the course, a little bit different as we talked about with the shadows, but she knows what worked and what didn't work for her last time. And how much does that factor into your plan in terms of an advantage with having that second horse to go on?
I think for her it's gonna play huge. They're both similar types of horses, big scopy horses, a similar plan on both horses. I'm impressed that you said the last name there. And unfortunately, having number 1 down will send her horse, and was upset about that, that's for sure. She'll have to ride up here in this 4.
It's got the stride to cover that ground and make it up. Again, we see that 4B coming down. And we'll see her at 5. As you said, the shadows are really shifting quite a bit.
That's right. And 8 faults already in the courses. She's going to have to adjust her plan. He's given her a little bit of trouble here, making the turns and letting her make the choices. Yep, and then she had the A there of 9AB and
the B.
And the B.
So she comes around the final turn here carrying 16 jumping faults.
Yeah, I'm sure she'll have wished to have had a smoother round today on this horse, but they'll live to see another day, that's for sure.
So that will do it for Katie Harris. 17 faults, a time of 82.73, so just over that 82-second time allowed for today. So Katie Harris and Garkis van Hetlandhoff out of the ribbons here this afternoon.
That might be our first horse rider combination to have a time fault without a mistake on course.
Yeah, just that we talk a lot about that rideability and it being so important. Even though this is a wide open gallopy track, you need to be able to make those adjustments when you're doing those tighter turns to shave off that time.
Absolutely.
And you're right, within the time allowed hasn't been a problem so far, unless there has been a big problem area on the course.
Absolutely.
All right, so our next entry representing the United States, Carrie-Ann Boyce Lockhart, and she is aboard a 12-year-old bay gelding. This one is Hopscotch.
Carrie-Ann comes to us from Eugene, Oregon. And she operates her own business. She's a professional, and she's taking quite a wide track here to number 2. This is a playful horse, definitely.
It's not how pretty you make it look as long as you jump the jumps.
That's right, you gotta leave the jumps up. But she is definitely taking wide tracks here, and again, she's going around number 2. Interesting, she rides with Enrique Gonzalez, so it'll be interesting to see what their plan was there, being the only ones to choose to go around number 2. Head number 7 down. Starting to get a bit wrangly. It's getting quick and a little argumentative with her.
Able to get out of that problem 9AB okay. Still carrying 4 as she comes around the final turn here to 10-11 and finishing up over that Steelcraft Door Products Oxer.
Well, and we're going to see her wide tracks take note in her time there. She had
just under that time allowed, 80-44.
That's right.
4 faults for Hopscotch and Carrie-Ann Boyce Lockhart. Our next entry here on course, also representing the United States, Jeff Camp and Woodsworth, the 11-year-old gray gelding. And he has multiple entries tonight. This is the first of 2 for him tonight. So, like we said with Katie Harris, he'll get a chance to see the course, make the adjustments, and have a little bit more knowledge and some tools in his toolbox for that second ride.
Absolutely, and he knows this horse a little bit better than his second horse for sure. So this will be a good one to have as his first horse. Fault free so far. He got through the tricky 4AB, and now he heads to the tricky number 5. Again, opting to go around this number 2. You want to bet this will be his horse for Sunday. Sunday, of course, they're only allowed to ride 1 horse rider combination. So some of these riders with 3 that they've jogged, they have to only pick 1 to go on Sunday to collect the points on. It's a recent change. In years past, you were able to have 2 horses and declare 1 for points, but still ride 2, and now you're only allowed to ride the 1.
In this class, of course, at 1.45 m, we'll see that go up to 1.60 m. So some of these riders, some of our younger developing riders, opting to do this class, and they won't be on Sundays. Big class, Jeff Camp and Wordsworth. That was a tongue twister. Speaking of words, finishing with 0 faults and a time of 79.86. But we've seen the fast times, and that won't be enough to get him in the ribbons tonight. But a very positive ride, as you said, to set him up nicely if this is in fact the horse that he chooses for Sunday.
Absolutely.
So our next entry, a Canadian rider, Jenna Thompson aboard Carmen, a 10-year-old mare.
And Jenna rides for Attaché Stables. Her and Ben Aslam work together out of Ben's family's farm. And she's recently taken over the ride on this horse, and Jenna's ridden on the Canadian team on a horse that she had called Zeke, which was such a great horse for her. So it's nice to see her back in this ring with a great mount. Jenna looks to be electing for a efficient medium track around this course. Still taking the inside number 2. That turn back to 6A and B is getting more and more difficult. Looks like they're looking just a little bit into the crowd there on the side, and it's taking their attention off the 6AB.
And we see those shadows starting to shift right in front of the base of that 7, that black jump, so it's already dark, and now we're seeing the light get darker and darker on the front of it.
That's right, and she's just had 9A down, which we've seen come down a lot in this course. And the plank as well, which surprisingly hasn't come down that much. Nonetheless, not a bad score for a new pairing.
So a jumping faults, a time of 72.85 for Jenna Thompson aboard Carmen. So Jenna Thompson, our 33rd entry, coming up next. 34 of 59 so far here today, and our top 10 littered with faultless efforts, so that is the way it's going to go. But the time to beat right now, Andrew Ramsey and Crockadoodle just holding that top spot. We saw him get a little bit of a run for his money with Heart and Towel, but 63.36 the time to beat in today's class. And another repeat offender, Eric Nave aboard Katip. Again, very interesting to see how he does it, because you know that the plan isn't just for today, it's for tomorrow and the next day and the day after.
That's right. You know, you'd like to say that the top of this week will be the horses that can run in today's class and still come back and jump the bigger Grand Prix on Sunday.
And he's by no means conservative so far.
That's right. He obviously has a lot of confidence in this horse. Whoa, a little bit deeper than I think you probably hoped he'd saw, but gets out of there just fine. You know, when you see something like that happen, it's always a great lesson for younger riders that they don't always find it perfect, these pros, but they sure fight for it on the way out. Makes me feel better anyways.
All right, so coming down to the final fence, he's quick, won't be quick enough, but he's going to finish in a time of 66.59, and it's a clear round, so that'll slide him nicely into the 6th spot. So not in it to win it per se, but he certainly wasn't holding back, and he set himself up nicely with a very confident ride for Sunday's Longines World Cup qualifier.
And we're a little over our halfway mark here. So 6th spot, that's still in jeopardy. There's still some fast riders to come, I think. And again, we'd like to be in and around this 63-second mark to win the class.
Gareth Graves, the next entry on course aboard Puka, a 9-year-old bay mare.
That's right. You know, he bought this horse actually for an amateur customer of his, and he had a great horse called Babette that he has been showing in these divisions, and they've actually traded, and you can see this horse obviously has a lot of scope as it jumps number 1. So they got this horse in the winter, and this will be his first time jogging it, although this horse has some experience in some bigger classes.
So a little long getting out of that 4 to the 3rd jump, but it's got the scope to cover the width of the Oxer.
Absolutely. Gareth has only had not so many years experience at this level with the horse called Babette, and so even though he's maybe green at this level, he sure rides well. He rides a lot of his customer horses, and he rides a lot during the day. And I'm sure that we'll see a lot more of him up in these classes in the future. Big stretch there over 9B, but still clear. But he did have that Oxford down out of the turn.
So coming home with 4 faults here for Gareth Graves. And that'll be where he ends up. His time, 72.95 for Gareth Graves and Billy Puka. So a second chance here for Jennifer Gates. We saw her earlier in the class, a newer horse for her, having a little bit of trouble eliminated, and she's had a chance to see quite a bit of the track. We saw that happen later in the course. So this time she'll give it a shot with Left Kiss, and it's a 12-year-old Grey Gelding.
That's right. She showed this one here in May and through the summer series, so she'll know this horse a little bit better than her first mount. And they do seem to keep mounting her on these very scopy, big strided horses. She gets to have a similar ride over and over, which is really great for a young rider coming up.
And speaking of young riders, she had some great success in Colorado at the Young Riders Championship, finishing with an individual bronze and the team silver. So she's coming off a very confident run of shows here.
Absolutely.
Bringing her horses. She has 3 horses here at Thunderbird.
She, of course, rides with Jack Hardin-Towell Jr. and Jack Towell Sr. Pardon me, and they've been a pairing for a long time, developing her riding all the way up since her first jumpers.
So a wealth of experience.
That's right.
At the helm of her program.
That's right. She just had number 8 down there. That's the biggest jump we have on course, and I believe the first time we've seen that come down tonight.
So she heads home to the final Oxer here, carrying 4 faults. And that's where she'll end today in a time of 69.45. So she had the time to get into the top 10, but she'll finish with 4 faults today. Jennifer Gates with her second mount in today's class.
And that's the game we play. You know, you take the risks, and sometimes you have one down.
And speaking of a risk taker, Andrew Ramsey holding the top spot right now on Crockadoodle. Time of 63.36. The only one to beat with his next mount, Stranger, is himself. And Stranger coming into this class is a 10-year-old Bay Gelding.
This is a familiar position. On Wednesday night, he was first when he returned back in the jump-off and ended up first and second on both of his horses.
So why not do 1-2, 1-2 again?
I'm sure that's what he's going for.
And we did watch a few very solid rounds at the top of our order here, and we think that there's room to shave off.
We do.
They were quick, they were efficient, but they weren't all out.
That's right. It's always easy to say when you're wearing a pair of jeans, but I think they can go faster. This is again very tight back to number 2. And choosing to do 5, that's the first 5 we've seen going from 2 to 3.
And a big choice here from 4 to 5 is that angle jumping in to set up that second turn. Oh, and the shadows in the Liverpool.
He'll be disappointed to have that down, I'm sure. And again, 6A. This horse has lots of go. So he'll need to settle it down here, finish a nice round, and get ready for Sunday.
So on our home stretch right now, carrying 8 jumping faults. 12, sorry, correction. And as he comes over that last Oxer, that will be it for him 12 faults, a time of 67 seconds for Stranger and Andrew Ramsey. Our next entry on course, the 38th of 59 entries in today's class, Patricio Pascal and Correas, a 12-year-old bay gelding.
Patricio was, of course, part of that Mexican team that won the Nations Cup here in May.
Very strong Mexican contingent today in today's class, and we'll see them again in Sunday's Longines FEI World Cup qualifier.
Absolutely.
Very nice positive ride out of the corner to 1.
Yeah, a little struggle to get turned back to 2 here, but so much stride with this horse. The 4 is easy.
Yeah, without looking like he's gunning it, he is covering a lot of ground.
He absolutely is. This is a big strided horse.
We're seeing a lot of trouble at that Oxer with and without the shadows.
Absolutely. A little deep in here to the double and has B out, which is, it's going to put him on 8 faults so far, which will put him out of our ribbons for sure. And a reach for the back rail there, so now 12.
So that will do it for Patricio Pascal and Correas, finishing the day with 12 jumping faults in a time of 70.01. As we talked about earlier, we're watching these shadows just shift in front of us. Now that number 5 has been a problem since the beginning, before and after the shadows. And how do you think that plays in? Because it seems to be the only area on the course where there's a little bit of a decision outside of the track that you take and the way you square up your turns. There is that inside option. We've only seen 2 riders go around our number 2 vertical.
Absolutely. I think that jump might be a little bit simpler if there wasn't the Liverpool underneath it, especially the Liverpool that has the grass attached to it. So these horses aren't seeing that until they're up in the air necessarily. Always when you put a little slice on something, you risk the front rail a little bit. And then with the addition of the shadows here, it's just making it more difficult.
So our next entry already on course, Carrie Roofer and Clapton. Good so far. A little bit of trouble in that turn from 1 to 2, but she worked it out.
Yeah.
And kept the gallop and made it nicely down that 4.
And Carrie's been riding with Rich Fellers, so as you can see, she's putting the pedal down here, stepping across the field. And then you have to know your horse a little bit at that jump, number 5, if how square and how straight they need to be, especially if you have any that has a question about the Liverpool. Just turning back here to the Noel Asmar. That's our tallest jump on course. She makes the 5 look normal. Must be a very adjustable ride.
Coming down to the home stretch, carrying no faults so far.
She's going to be over that 63 second, but she'll be happy with a clear round, I'm sure.
Finishing up 72-17 and no jumping faults for Carrie Roofer, and that'll put her in the 10th spot now after we've seen 39 of 59, so 20 horses left to go on course. All right, so our 40th horse to go in this class, Baldira and Ray Texel representing the United States. It's an 11-year-old chestnut mare, and according to the grooms, she is a chestnut mare.
You know, Ray has a history of riding these a little bit sensitive mares. His most success was on a mare called Fleur. he had this horse brought over, and he lost the ride on it for a moment, but it was quickly discovered that he has the most success on it, and he's got it back now.
So she's a fiery redhead.
That's right, and that was
Look at her go.
quite tight back to number 2. He did quite well this summer at Spruce Meadows in the speed divisions, and that seems to be where she shines. Unfortunately, having 4B down already early on course. But Ray, the competitor, ever the competitor, not backing off.
She is a firecracker.
She is.
She wants to go.
She is. Yep, and she tries hard. And again, having number 7 down, so that fire's on a little too high. And again, they're 9A. So coming with 12 faults down this last line. He's going out quite wide, trying to settle her back, it looks like. Oh, he almost looked like he might pull up there from our angle, but of course that Oxer's hidden behind a tree for us.
We've got 2 beautiful trees in the middle of the ring.
That's right. We'll have to speak with the course designer about placement for us.
Absolutely. Well, that'll be it for Ray Texel and Baldira. 12 faults, a time of 69.11. So despite the faults and going wide in that turn that we saw to jump number 10, we saw quite a quick time given the track that he chose to take.
Absolutely. That'll just show how fast that mare really is. We're going to see Samantha Bures in next with Sid the Kid. She's a local Langley rider. And Sid doesn't look to be the speediest type, but he does have a big step, this horse. And you can see she's already revving him up.
10-year-old gray gelding, Sid the Kid.
Sam's had this horse since he was 4 years old. And she's done all the developing of him herself. You see he too wears this shadow roll because he's a heavy studier of the fences for sure. She's going to make up her time in the big gallop across to number 5. Shame to have 4A and B down. She's still galloping though, look at her, practicing. He's 10 years old, but he is definitely a green 10, and she's going to keep teaching him how to go fast here. And now we're on 20 faults, it looks like, so she's gonna take a moment for sure. Yeah, and then keep teaching him. You know, you have to admire these riders that are doing the developing. You know, it's easy to see them go fast and win, but you don't always get to see all the training that happens in the process.
Absolutely, and with that, you've got to know your horse quite well if you've been bringing it along. So she would know that, you know, putting that added stress once the class is already out of reach, to take the time to adjust, finish on a positive note, and call it a day. Save her horse, let him rest, and recoup for the next.
That's right.
So no score here for Sid the Kid and Samantha Bures.
That's right. Moving on now to Sarah Happy and Flip.
11-year-old chestnut gelding for Sarah Happy.
Sayer and Hardental run the business together, and this horse is owned by Jack Towell.
So we saw her walking the course earlier with young student Jennifer Gates. She's had a chance to see Jennifer twice.
That's right.
In the way that she rode this one.
And Harden once. And unfortunately, they're having number 1 down already. That'll change her plan, I'm sure. And number 3 down. We're starting to see the rails fall, and I'm not sure that the heat isn't playing a role. We've had a hot week, and
late in the evening after a long, hot day.
That's right. And these horses, you know, normally this is their dinner time. This is the late class for these horses. And we're going to start to see some of them not quite have the focus you might have earlier in the day.
So coming around the turn for the home stretch, carrying 12 jumping faults.
Gets over the last one easily.
So Sarah Happy and Flip finishing the day here with 12 jumping faults in a time of 71.20.
Well, Carl Cook's now back for his second round on a horse called Basimoto.
And Basimoto, a 10-year-old bay gelding, and Carl, a veteran, to see all of that, knowing how many classes he's watched, how many horses, and make a plan with, as you said, a big string of horses to choose from.
Big string of horses they have for sure, but I would guess that him and Eric, in their experience, they made a plan from the beginning, and they won't stray too far from it. The numbers are a little bit what they are out here, and it's just where you're going to take your chances in gallop, and where, knowing your horse, where to set up. So far, so good. They've been managing this round. Easy reach across that 9B.
So up and over the final oxer, no problem for them. A clear round, a time of 70.05. And with that, they slide into the 7th spot. So we are going to likely see that 70-second threshold be our top 10 as we start to get closer to the bottom of this order.
We do, yep. Carl's bettered his own time by a second and a half here, but conveniently sits still right behind Eric Neve.
And another Canadian entry next on course here. It's Laurie Jameson and KVF Zeno.
You know, it's an interesting story with this horse, Zeno. She's brought it over from Europe as a 3-year-old stallion and rode it in the hunters for quite a long time. And then, as I said the other day, it sort of came out of nowhere and it started to jump the Grand Prix, and it's doing a great job for her at that.
Yeah, she said some people tried it as an amateur hunter, but it jumped them out of the tack. It just had too much scope to be an amateur hunter, and she thought, well, why not repurpose it? And when you have a farm with 100 horses, you've got room to develop and play around.
That's right, and Laurie's she's a sticky rider. He won't jump her loose too much, that's for sure. She used to ride a great stallion called Tacord, and this has been a nice next horse for her, as Tacord has been aging out of the sport.
And nice and scopy, no problem getting out over that oxer in the 4 class here.
That's right.
Little wiggly down there, but she got out.
That's right. She's a gritty thing, and she's the one who mentioned she wanted to do 4, but she said she was going to watch the class, and although it was difficult, 5's definitely the better choice there.
Yep, and she keeps them up. She turns the corner with no faults coming home here in the class. And just the final oxer to go. Up and over. She'll be thrilled with that. Her time, 76:29. So not in the ribbons today, but a very positive ride for her.
She'll be happy with that, especially leading into Sunday.
Well, we've seen them already tonight, Jeff Camp and Chevejo this time around. It's a 9-year-old chestnut gelding.
we're seeing those shadows move a little bit more in front of 4AB too. So this first part of the course is gonna, although it seems simple, become trickier and trickier as we see our last 20 odd horses go.
And we see Jeff take his horse right up to it, give him a little bit of a look, rides right through it to start his path to one. Scopy little guy over that first oxer.
Absolutely, and this is a newer ride for Jeff, so we might see him be just a hair more conservative. Well, of course, he makes me eat my words. The beginning half of the course, not trouble for him.
We're seeing it get quite dark over that number 7 oxer, but it hasn't seemed to have been a problem with those shadows moving.
That's right.
So Mother Nature proving us wrong here in this one.
It's a really nice effort from that horse in that 9AB combination. Big effort out.
And turns the home stretch with no faults at all, coming down to the last 2 jumps. And he's hustling. He's turned on the jets on that corner.
He has. Unfortunately, a little bit too late.
Jeff Camp and Chevejo in the 9th spot. So a very local rider here. Next on course, a Canadian, Laura Jane Tidball and LaRoe. Prim de LaRoe.
Prim de LaRoe, that's right. LJ, of course, comes from Thunderbird Show Stables. Not located at Thunderbird Show Park, but all in the family. They've also developed this horse since it was a young horse, her and Brent and Laura together.
And an interesting Olympic connection and a Canadian connection. They bought it as a 5-year-old off of a video, and Tiffany Foster actually found the horse.
Is that right?
Yeah, so an Olympic connection, a local girl, Tiffany, growing up, showing here, and Tiffany's the reason they found this, and she bought it off a tape.
Well, it's working out well for LJ for sure. She's shown this horse at this level now for a couple of years. She makes a big move there to the Liverpool, but it works out fine. It's such an interesting technique, this horse. You know, he gives the jumps actually a lot of space, but he's definitely low at the base of the fence. And then she picks him back up to kick onto the next. She's just now had 2 almost in a row down, so coming to the last line with 8 faults.
And you see it jump a little bit more vertical, but that extra effort with the hind end makes a big difference. And 8 faults is how she'll end up today. Her time 74.18. That's for Laura Jane Tidball and Prim de LaRoe.
That's right. And Tracy up next in the ring is another local rider riding a horse called Chicago. She's from the Richmond area, and she spends quite a bit of time here at Thunderbird Show Park.
Tracy App in Chicago, a 9-year-old bay stallion. And she's opting to do what we saw Jeff do earlier, ride right up to that in of 4AB, the big wide oxer that has been a problem spot throughout the night in this class. It's got a big, beautiful, lopey canter.
This is a beautiful horse, a stallion also. She's a little rider on a big horse, but she sure has a strong way about her and encouraging that horse forward down that 4-stride line. And just not liking what she saw there to 4AB, so circling around.
And no problem once she gets back in there.
That's right. She'll be setting this horse up for Sunday, is her plan. A little struggle on the turn back to this Liverpool. Sometimes these stallions can be a little much to handle. Got to keep them on task. As you see her wind her way down and unfortunately not make it to number 7.
So that'll be it for Tracy Epp and Chicago. Our next entry on course representing Mexico, we have Alejandro Mills and Fine Star. And Fine Star, an 11-year-old bay gelding. Seen some of his fellow countrymen go today.
That's right.
Plenty to bounce ideas around on, and as we've talked about so much here, and we haven't really seen it play a factor aside from number 5, the shadows over that Oxer, over an already very spooky jump, but we're seeing them start to shift in front of that 4AB, which has been a trouble spot throughout the night.
That's right. And he took a good look there at number 5, the Liverpool, with his horse. This is a lovely rangy horse with a great gallop.
Jumps in a little bit quiet, but makes that 4 look easy.
Lots of range to the step of this horse. Very cat-like there in 4AB. Always a nice quality to see in such a big horse. And in the end, 5 not an issue for him.
Just that front rail of the Oxer coming down.
Whoa, that was an interesting effort by that horse, and maybe didn't quite see the back rail as it pushed off the ground, but because of all that range and scope, left it all up.
So coming home to the final Oxer with 8 jumping faults here. And that'll be it for Alejandro Mills and Fine Star, finishing the day with 8 jumping faults in a time of 74.40. And next entry on course representing the United States, we have Lindsay Fletcher aboard William L. It's a 15-year-old bay gelding.
Lindsay and this horse have been coming up here for a long time. 15 years old. He has some experience under his belt for sure.
Oh, on that unlucky first rail.
And quite a wide track now. She takes to number 2. You know, the top of our leaderboard hasn't really changed recently, with Andrew Ramsey still holding down the top, and still 65, 66 seconds is going to take our top 6 spots so far.
So you've got to be clear and you've got to be efficient.
That's right. So unfortunately here, with Lindsay coming not quite to the last line, but already on 12 faults, she won't be in that top 10 tonight.
And she adds on a few more with that B rail of the 9AB combination. So coming home with 16 here on the final stretch. And up and over the final oxer, Lindsay Fletcher and William L. finishing the day here with 16 faults and a time of 75.64. So as you said there on our leaderboard, Andrew Ramsey holding the way right now. A top spot with Crockadoodle in a time of 63.36.
Yeah, and he's followed closely with just 0.02 seconds between him and Jack Towell. So we'll be hoping that somebody can crack that in our last 9 horses here to go to take the win.
Yeah, and Andrew, we saw him go 9th in the order. Ben Asselin also up there in 4th place, and he went 4th in the order. So you're right, we haven't really seen a lot of these late entries crack that top 10.
No, but we still have some great fast riders to come, including Ben on his 2nd horse and Nicola Heinroos on theirs, and Tina Yates will come back again. So we'll see some riders who've had some experience already on this track come back. Speaking of which, we have Antonio Maurer and Galileo Delabri in their Antonio's 2nd time out today.
And this one, a 10-year-old Gray Gelding.
See Antonio on that same type of horse again, a big rangy mover, lots of scope. Maybe not your typical speed looking horse, but he'll be making an efficient track here. Very tight back to number 2.
No problem getting through that 4.
That's right.
Allows him to take that very inside route to number 2. And through what we could call the problem combination so far today.
That's right, and if he leaves this one up, unfortunately that comes down. That first half of the course is getting more and more difficult as the shadows change. You know, we talk sometimes about the fatigue of the horses in the heat, but these riders have been riding horses all day in this heat also. They haven't been sitting at home in the air conditioning, so the rider fatigue can also play a part, especially these riders that are riding more than one horse.
So as he turns the corner to the final stretch here, carrying 4 jumping faults.
Easily over the last there. 4 faults, not a bad score, but not enough to get into our top rankings today.
No, and if we're keeping an eye on the time, 71.95. He was very efficient. We saw him do that really, really crisp turn from 1 to 2, staying nice and tight to the 2nd jump, and still 71.95. So he would have been out of the top 10 had he jumped clear. So really that top 10 stacked, but as you mentioned earlier, we do have quite a difference between our 6th and 7th ranked riders, a difference of nearly 4 seconds. 3 and a little bit. But that's a substantial difference right there in the heart of our top 10.
Absolutely. Our next one in here is Julia Stanley riding Caramel. She's been riding with the Thunderbird Show Park Stables group, but she does come from Calgary, my hometown. I really love this horse. This has been a great horse for her to learn to jump up these classes. Probably too wide a turn there to number 2 to get in our top times, but she'll be looking for just a nice clear round for herself. And again, quite wide and straight here to number 5. But this will be this pair's 2nd year only at this level.
And coming around, I think that's the only the 3rd, but it looks like she's working on a confidence boost here.
That's right.
That rail came down late. She just tapped it.
This is a horse Marion Ostmeyer had and sold to Julia a couple of years ago, and Julia had jumped sort of some 1m20s, 1m30s before she got this horse. So for her to move up to this division in that short a time is an accomplishment in its own.
Well, in a track that's proven to be tough late in the day here, we'll see it reflected in her score with the time faults and taking some of those wider approaches. She finishes the day with 4 jumping and 2 time faults. 86.55 will be her time in this one. And we are now officially inside the final 10 horses. Of 59 to see in this class are Steelcraft Doors International Speed Class at 1m45.
That's right. Mariano Maggie is next to go with Hannah.
And Hannah, a 9-year-old bay mare.
Quite an effort there over number 1. Big jump. This horse is fresh and ready to go, it looks like.
And he knows he's got the scope to get out of that 4, so he opts to take a very inside track to number 2. Oh, that 4A has been tough.
Comes down again.
It's a big, wide oxer to get across out of a turn with lots going on in the background.
That's right. Quite tight there to 6AB, but leaves it up.
It is scopy.
This track is getting tougher and tougher as the shadows shift, like you've mentioned, and the day drones on a bit. It's been a hot day and a little disappointing to have an early 4 faults.
And if you look at the time, he's blistering right now. Coming down that home stretch, carrying 4 faults.
He is. He's clearly practicing his speed courses for today.
And there you have it, 65.98. 4 jumping faults for Mariano Maggie, and we see that time. We talked about the difference between 6 and 7, and he would have been well within that with the clear round into that 5th spot. So there is room. If you can keep the jumps up and be efficient, there's room inside that top 10 with a big hole between 6 and 7 of over 3 seconds.
That's right.
Well, we've seen her once before, and we see her again here. Sayre Happy and Ludwig's Joker Bee. This time it's an 11-year-old bay gelding. For AB, not a problem for her today.
No, we're getting a little argument here as we settle back to jump a 5. And unfortunately, just a miscommunication there at the Liverpool.
The jump crew working to get it set up, and she'll have a moment to gather her thoughts and work on her strategy from here on out.
Yeah, it looks like she's just going to take a courtesy fence at number 2 and save her horse for another day.
And so that fence number 5, an oxer that we looked at during the course walk and thought, you know, it's fairly inviting, but then you've got that Liverpool, and as you said, the grass underneath, and now we're really seeing the shadow from our tree of obstruction here. Absolutely. Casting that big shadow and making it tough, and we've seen it be a problem in terms of horses taking rails. You've seen some horses getting a second look at that Liverpool as they're in the air, and now we're seeing it an even bigger problem, and Sayre Happy electing to call it a day after that one.
That's right. And after watching Sarah go, it looks like Kara's trying to give her horse a good look at that as they're stamping the ground in front of it to make the footing good again.
And Kara Anthony, we've already seen her today, this time on Cloud VA as 7-year-old Grey Gelding.
That shadow's playing a factor there for her at number 1, I think. Quite spooky. 7 is also young for this height of class, so it'll be a green horse at this height. Difficult ride in there to 4A. But if they can get up on the rhythm, then they can let go of number 1 and finish with a good clear round.
Gave it a good look there at the base of the shadows.
It did, you know, and when they're 7 years old, they don't always have the experience to draw and to be able to let those shadows go and just look at the top rails. And unfortunately now with number 7 down.
So 16 jumping faults so far in the course, having made it through 7.
And she'll press on here and jump the vertical, the Noël Asmar, the tallest jump on course, with another Liverpool under it also. Although to be fair, it doesn't look like it's spooky at the Liverpool. It's probably the shadows coming into play tonight.
And it looks like he's settled down quite a bit now. Coming around to the final turn. Now over our time allowed, so time faults are coming into play. But a confidence builder from here on out.
Absolutely. And she'll be disappointed with that score of what looks like 24 faults, but it's a young horse and they'll have many more days to come out.
So 24 faults, a time of 94.25 for Kara Anthony and Cloud VA. And we are certainly on the home stretch now. 59 horses in the class and the first of 5 remaining. We've seen him once before and he currently sits in 4th place with another horse, but Ben Asselin and Cool Feeling will give it a shot. It's an 8-year-old bay gelding.
Cool Feeling is 8 and another young horse to come into this ring and see these shadows at night. Like we said before, Ben likes to develop his young horses himself, and this will be this horse's first year at this level. Pressing on there to number. Ben can give these young horses such a confident ride, you know, pressing up to these jumps, and that gives them the encouragement to look past the shadows and keep their eye on those top rails. First half of the course not being a problem for him.
And we saw from 2 to 3, this horse has a nice big stride, so it doesn't have to race to the second jump to get across that oxer.
Absolutely.
So he's able to give it time to find its own stride.
Tallest jump on course, and then this 5-stride line to the double. Jumps that easy though.
And we've said it a few times tonight, watching all of these different horse types. Ben doesn't look like he's going fast, but he's covering the ground, and he's got a solid time so far coming down to the final 2 jumps.
Absolutely. It will be just out of our top 66 seconds. But not far off the
Just
pace.
in. 71.06 is the time. And that'll slide him into the 10th place. But a very solid round for Ben Asselin and Cool Feeling, a horse he's trying to bring up through the ranks, and it looks pretty good so far.
Great horse for the future.
Our next entry on course here, another Canadian, we see Lisa Carlson. This one is a 13-year-old bay mare, World's Judgment.
That's right, and we saw Lisa earlier on Perrette, which is a very different style of horse, a bigger, rangier horse, and World's Judgment is, I'd be surprised if she cracked 16 hands. Very small horse, but Lisa's jumped a lot of big tracks on this horse over the last few years.
I think Firecracker would be a good description of this one.
Absolutely.
It likes to go fast.
It
so
does.
If we've got our bets hedged on one to go quickly in this final
And Lisa
group.
does too. Absolutely. She'll be... Oh! That was an unfortunate fall for Lisa there. And the horse is going to take a head back to the in gate. And that, I have to say, that could have been fault of the shadows there. It looks like she got to a good spot and the horse just questioned it for just one moment.
So Lisa up and walking back towards the in gate, so it looks like she's okay here, and a trusty groom has managed to get a hold of World's Judgment, so
that won't help her groin injury.
No, and that's the tough part of this sport. And we watch the Olympics and we talk about the crazy adventure that has been Nick Skelton's health getting up to the top, and he's had a lot of injuries, and it does come with a lot of risk. But these riders, it's easy to watch them and admire how beautiful, but you talked about the impact of a long, hot day on some of these riders.
Absolutely.
It's tough, and it's nighttime, and it has been a scorcher here at Thunderbird, so
absolutely
tough on their bodies just as much as the horses.
For sure. Lisa's a very tough rider, but it'll be interesting to see which horse now she picks for Sunday. World's Judgment would have been her clear choice leading up to that point. Of course, on Sunday we'll be in the bright afternoon and we won't have shadows playing a role in this.
So this next horse, he's told me, is the horse that he will have in the FEI World Cup qualifier this Sunday. Nikolai Heinroos and Big Red. It's an 11-year-old gelding, and as you probably guessed, it's a chestnut.
That's right. This has been a great horse for Nicola, and actually the owner, Geraldo, comes and rides him sometimes. Rode him a little bit this summer at Spruce Meadows Summer Series, but nice for Nicola to have the ride for the World Cup points. And is jumping in great form.
Tough shadows here at 4AB. Not a problem.
No, and you know, that's a little bit the advantage of having a little bit older horse. They've seen these night classes a little bit more. They know a little bit more how to handle these shadows. Unfortunately, having number 5 down, which has been a bit of a bogey fence for us tonight.
Nice through 9AB, and now he turns the corner for the home stretch, carrying just 4 jumping faults.
This last jump away from home can get them a bit skittering out the side there, but Nicola and Big Red finished with just the 4 faults.
Time there of 76.22, and a nice confident ride to set him up nicely for Sunday's big World Cup qualifying class.
Absolutely. You know, I'm not sure that Andrew Ramsey would have said that he would have held on to our top spot all this time with just 2 left. Him and Jack Towell are just split by 0.02 seconds in the 1-2 spots there. And with just 2 riders left, we'll be anxious to see if we can take the number 1 away.
Yeah, and in a class of 59, he went 9th, so a substantial portion of the class has tried unsuccessfully.
That's right.
To knock him out of that top spot. Our next entry on course here, Patricio Pascal and Babel, a 9-year-old chestnut gelding.
Getting a little sauce between 1 and 2 here. Horse obviously has the spunk, and the heat of the day hasn't worn him down just yet.
Nice through 4AB, and he's putting the pedal to the metal here, coming to 5, which has been tricky for the last few combinations.
Nicely up over 5. Hopefully he's given Andrew a run for his money here. It was very tight into 6AB. Looking over to our tallest jump on course. Looks like a bit of a bent line here in the 5 strides. big reach out over that double.
Well, Andrew won't say it, but this is exciting for the crowd.
That's right.
As he comes to the home stretch with no faults at all, and he is fast.
That's right.
He could have the time here coming down to the final oxer. Oh, up and over. Oh, no. Andrew Ramsey hangs on by a thread. Patricio Pascal with a time of 63.96. No faults at all. So he'll slide into that third spot with Babel. And wow, did it ever look close there.
That's right. Just 0.6 seconds separates him and the winner so far with one left to go. So it's all on Tina Yates.
It's a pressure spot.
It absolutely is. She's, of course, already seen this course once tonight.
Tina Yates was 26th to go on her other horse, right now sitting in 6th spot, so we know that she will be in our top 10 and in on the money in today's class. Can she do it twice? A lot of riders with 2 horses in today's class, but none with 2 in our top 10 right now.
And unfortunately, number 1 down. So our top 10 will be firmed up already. Giving 6A the respect it deserves with a little more space. Looking like she's setting up here for the Sunday class. But just the 4 faults so far coming to the last fence.
And that'll be it for her. 4 faults, a time of 70.05. So he went 9th in the order, but he ends up 1st overall. He held on for 50 horses to stay in the mix.
That's pretty
Andrew Ramsey and Crockadoodle winning the class in a time of 63.36. But how about Heart and Towel in second, 63.38. It was a close one there for those top 2.
Absolutely. And holding on to the top spot for that long, that's a great horse and a great ride from him tonight. So it's a great competition for us tonight in the $34,000 600 class from Steelcraft Doors. Andrew Ramsey, our winner tonight, and signing off.
Signing off, and we're getting ready for a very big class on Sunday. We have the Longines FEI World Cup qualifier right here at Thunderbird Show Park. A lot of the entries we saw tonight, at least the riders, we'll see them again on Sunday at 1.60 m with a beautiful weather forecast coming up for Sunday.
Absolutely.
It's sure to be a great class. So on behalf of my co-host here, Holly Grayton, Kate Pedersen signing off for this Steelcraft Doors Speed class. Andrew Ramsey and Crockadoodle take the top honors.